We're going to be talking about this in today's session because many senior people have this idea that progression means more skills and more knowledge, and of course, more strategic exposure. And absolutely, we might want to get to know a few more people and try and spread our knowledge and information a little bit further, our influence a little bit further. But actually, the real issue, once we start to get to more senior roles, is less about those granular details. It's a lot more about how you come across. It's a lot more about what we might call the communication of authenticity. That's a little bit of a mouthful. I'm still juggling with better phrasing for this, but it's almost a communication of conviction. And you know exactly what I mean when I say that, almost by instinct. It's very clear where it is I'm going with that. This idea that many of us have this nice, smooth, professional way of expressing and explaining ourselves in a work-based situation. But if we are dealing with trying to get more people to see our view, our perspective, we can argue all day about data and statistics and numbers and figures and facts. Those are all fabulous, but it's often a lot more about the alignment between what you might feel and what people see and what they hear and what they feel. So I often work with senior people on a one-to-one basis, and I occasionally do assessment programs with senior leaders, and I'll do training programs, everything from people first role of supervisory or first line management, right the way up to board members. Everything from SMEs to very large multinationals. And there's a recurrent theme that what leaders think about something, what they are driven by, isn't always how they are perceived by people around them in the organization. And if you're looking to go further, to go faster, to take up your next step, to take up your next role, to get the tap on your shoulder, that's something that you're going to want to consider. And there are two consistent approaches that I see. One is confident, senior, fast thinkers. Frequently, people who get to a more senior level are speaking quickly, use humor naturally, very comfortable in the room, can appear slightly flippant, and that all sounds positive, but that might give the impression that they're not taking things as seriously as they are. Now, frequently they are, but perception, of course, is reality. So that's one type of leader I meet a lot. The other type, equally common, is quieter and more reflective. So we might describe them as thoughtful, analytical, having strong views, caring deeply, but, or perhaps because they tend to speak less, they tend to understate points, and they'll often sit back physically. And they can look disengaged. Again, not true, but that is often how it lands. So what we've got here is a mismatch problem. The further you go into an organization, the further you climb, or the greater your ambition wishes to take you, you are increasingly judged on presence. You might think that you care deeply and you're trying to get the wording right, but you could look detached. You might think you are being decisive, but it's very easy for that to look dismissive. You could be, in your mind, super strategic. You see everything, but it might look or come across as casual. People make assumptions. And boards, of course, do not promote intention. They promote the signal that you are giving out now. To put somebody into a more senior role is a tremendous risk for the organization. And they are going to be looking at, and they do look for, signs that you can do this now, not that you are ready to move into this. So this is what I'm talking about, that communication of conviction. What is it that you really feel about something, and what can you do to help that come across in a way that lands with your audience, whether they are peers, whether they are people who report to you, organization-wide, external stakeholders. It's important that you are able to convey how important something is to you, the strategic view you've got, the wider view, and so on. And this is only going to be possible if you can find a comfortable balance between how you really are and the way that you present yourself. Now, Often, if I talk about this, I might use the word performance, and that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. I'm not asking you to pretend to be someone you're not. Equally, I'm not asking if you're a quieter person for you to suddenly start rah-rahing, high-fiving everybody, nor am I asking you to dial it right down if you're a more persuasive, faster thinking, faster talking person. But it is being nuanced to what's around you. What can you do to take some more people with you, to demonstrate what you really think and feel? So often for more confident speakers, it's about slowing your pace considerably. The room needs to catch up with you. What you need to understand, if you know that you are confident, if you know that you can stand up and speak and hold the room, if you know that your brain feels like it moves fast, many senior leaders describe themselves as that. You need to allow time for the room to catch up. And it's not that you are super advanced compared to everyone, but we all process at different times and paces. And you need to remember that you've already done the linking. You've had the vision or the idea. You've got an overriding strategy. Your personality, your role means you want to get this thing achieved. But the people you're talking to, they need to catch up with you. And people do this all the time, not just leaders. People do this all the time. They will spend 6 hours working out a spreadsheet or a PowerPoint or a presentation, and that is all the work that goes up here. But when they talk about it, certainly if you're a confident person, you forget the process you had to get to arrive at this place. And so it's a little bit about literally letting people catch up with your process. I'm going to caution you as well. If you are a fast-paced, confident speaker, you need to drop the throwaway humor in serious moments. Now, I'm a massive fan of humor. I think it's brilliant, and I think it does a lot of good. But if I'm critical of myself, I know that sometimes because I lean on humor, I know that I can get a response. And a response in the moment feels lovely. It doesn't always look as serious as I wish to be taken. It doesn't always land with the weight that I'd like it to land. And so this doesn't mean suddenly turn off your ability to be dry humored or to be naturally engaging. It does mean think about what you say. And if you don't have a thing to say that advances the argument, that allows people to catch up with you, just use silence. You need to be a little bit clearer. If you, and when I say you, I absolutely mean me as well. This is a thing that I know that I will sometimes trip over. If you are making a joke when other people are feeling anxious, it looks careless. I know you don't intend that, but it is how it can come across. Now let's flip this. Plenty of people I meet in senior roles are what we might call quieter leaders, on an absolute equal footing with some of the louder, more confident speakers I've just been speaking about, but a different set of issues. So quieter leaders often need literally to sit themselves forward a little bit. They need to land a point earlier and then stop talking. They also need sometimes, if this is you, to use fewer qualifiers. This is where we get down the whole route of, well, it could be, and maybe it's a because, and just to ensure that it all equals. That's all fine. But that is you demonstrating how careful and considerate you have been of the argument you're putting forward. Now, that's again, just as with the confident people, is not something to lose. But in terms of presentation and getting your confidence out, it's tripping you up. It's things like, I might be wrong. Now, that sounds perfectly reasonable and fair and a just thing to say if you're not 100% convinced. But I might be wrong probably doesn't scream senior leader. My view is does, but it allows for that interpretation if we need it. As previously, I'm not saying you need to become someone else. I am suggesting, with respect and love, that you need to become, or you need to make a little more visible what is already there. Now, all of this, whether you're a more confident speaker or a more quiet speaker, is not about being fake. So again, I alluded to this just a couple of moments ago. Do I have to perform? You sort of do, but performance as a word worries people, which is why I've left us a little bit into this conversation to drop this word with a little more weight. Do you have to perform? In a sense, you sort of do have to perform. Every senior role involves performance. And this isn't theatre. We're not doing things for the sake of it. We're not being fundamentally fake to who we are. But it is about intention. And so one of the points that I often make for people, and this is quite a tricky one to wrap your head around, it's an argument I've been kicking around for a few months, is this idea of the performance of authenticity. Now, that sounds like it doesn't work. Authentic means real, genuine. Performance of sounds inherently fake. But let me tell you what I mean. If I'm talking to a room full of people on a topic that I share a lot, I'll often get questions that I've had many, many times before. And it would be very easy for me just to fire out the answer, almost a rehearsed, scripted answer, because it's a question I might get asked so often. But put yourself in the position of the person who asked that question. Now, I don't know their backstory. I don't know whether they are quite nervous asking the question. I don't know if it took a lot of effort from them. But when they took the choice, when they stepped up and said, I've got a question for you, if that's okay, and then asked the question, the fact that I've heard it a million times before doesn't make it any less important to them, or indeed anyone else in the room. So I will sometimes make out that I've not heard that question before. It's as simple as, oh, yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. Or, oh, right. Okay. Now, that's not really acting, is it? It's emphasizing that I do appreciate the question. Of course I do. I love it when people ask questions. So it's a little bit about bringing out what you'd want to bring out, you on a good day, if you remember the old adverts for Barocca. Because we're always sending signals, pace and tone and eye contact and physical energy and language choices. The question I would ask you, whether you are, again, I'm keeping it to these two main types, very confident, fast, loud speaking leader, or a more quiet, reflective one, are your signals that you're sending out aligned with what you actually believe? That's what I mean by this communication of authenticity. And this matters for progression, because once you get beyond a certain level of seniority, I'm pretty much going to assume that you have technical competence, that you've got experience, that you've got a degree of intelligence, right? That's not quite going without saying, but not far off. So what does tend to separate people at this level? Well, it's gravitas. There's a great word, isn't it? It's clarity. It's consistency. And the great news is this isn't new qualifications. It's not horribly difficult, but it does require something that require. Let's think about that again. It does require something from you that is a little more effort, and that is awareness. It's easier to make yourself aware of how you're presenting, how you come across, what your leadership style is. It's a lot easier than learning a whole new framework, but it does require a little bit of honesty from you. So let me leave you with a few points just before I wrap this up. The question you need to ask yourself, and you need to know what you look and sound like when you present. Most people have never seen themselves on video unless they are forced to watch it. Most people will do anything they can except get a sense of their presentation style when they are leading an event, a conference, or speaking at a big table. But when you say you care about something, do you look like you care about it? If you say that something matters, does your tone show that? When you disagree with people, whether on your level or almost more critically, people who report to you, if you disagree with them, do you sound confident or defensive? It's really easy, isn't it, to make a point, make it strongly because you are 100% certain you're right, you're confident, you put a great point across. But it's very simple to find that that's come across the wrong way and to realize the other person has felt diminished by your delivery. So I'm going to suggest to you that your career isn't limited by what you know. I'm going to suggest to you it could be limited by the gap between your intention and the perception of others. So let's bring this to a bit of a close. And thank you so much for being here on this platform today, on this little 15-minute live, the communication gap. If you are leading senior people and you see this mismatch in your team, you can give me a message. You can get some one-to-one help, whether with me or with one of my team, or indeed we can help with programs for you at communication, presentation skills, conference speaking, or indeed we have a whole suite of leadership work. But for now, it has been absolutely lovely running this session with you. I do hope to